Welcome back to another video here on the second channel. The latest updates and changes to the resource pack has been released. If you're unaware, Minecraft's look is going to change, and at some point this resource pack that is publicly available will be put into an update of the game. The idea though is to go back and forth with the community about changing the look of the game. So you've got any opinions on the textures that you see here, you'll be able to get them back to Mojang and let them know what you think. So it's got some examples on this poster on minecraft.net at the moment. That'll be linked in the description box down below. You can see cobblestone and glass has changed a little bit, and the nether is looking pretty awesome with this new update. Now, I don't think there's a changelog of all the things that have actually been changed, so a lot of this is going to be guesswork in this video. There's also a Reddit thread. I'm not sure if this is the proper one, but I'll link to the proper one in the description box down below. You can go to this Reddit thread, you can leave comments, you can let the people at Mojang see, you know, what your thoughts and opinions are. Also, this was found inside the resource pack that's been released. This is a turtle shell texture, and by the looks of it, you can wear it on your head, or maybe the Reddit user that posted this just found a way to put it on their heads. But it's a texture inside the resource pack, which is linked to one of the future updates, the aquatic update of Minecraft. So a cool little Easter egg to find right there. But let's jump on into Minecraft, and I quickly want to start off by saying I've had no time to really, check this out at all. What I've done is I've browsed through some Reddit threads trying to pick up on the things that people have said has changed a lot, so I can jump in here and have a look at those textures. Now, last time I did this video, I had a similar setup of just looking at everything one by one and sort of saying yes or no to each of them. And I found out how Jasper, who is doing the textures, actually looked at my video for feedback, which I feel kind of guilty about, because I'm going to shout out Good Times with Scar did a fantastic video taking the time to build with the different textures and talk about how they looked and felt. So I just wanted to kind of shout out Scar for doing that. This is me just taking a very quick look around this little village here. I've put down some blocks over in the distance. This is so you guys can have a look if you're unable to do the resource pack stuff yourself. And I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. So over here are where the big changes are, the big and obvious ones. I've tried to pick out as many of them as I can. I'm not entirely sure if they're that much difference from the previous ones. But over here, first of all, we have our different variants of stone looking relatively good. I think these are reasonable, buildable with, especially the diorite. That's a much nicer texture now. But over here on the andesite, you may not see it straight away. There's like a purpley bluish tint to this block, which I don't think works particularly well. And the reason I say it doesn't work particularly well is because what I've learned to do over time, learning from other builders like Scar and Iskal, is to grab a bunch of blocks that fit together to randomize your walls. Rather than having, flat walls or terrain if you're building a bit of a slope, get in there, shuffle some of the blocks around, and usually it ends up looking a lot better and a lot interesting. And I was doing this a moment ago with these blocks, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm getting used to seeing different blocks, but that was quite noticeable. It always felt like it popped out a little bit. Now the gravel obviously pops out with a purplish tint. Again, might just be used to seeing that, but to me it feels like that kind of sticks out a little bit too much. It needs to match the stone to the side of it, I think. So when you use it in that environment, it looks pretty good. So anyway, going around and checking out more stuff here. We've got glass, which has been tweaked again. I liked it last time. I think it's still pretty good. I don't think you can go wrong with this mindset of getting the streaks out of the middle of the block, because that's where it tends to spoil the view. Over here, sponge and wet sponge. I'm not really sure if you're ever going to use that for building as a texture of any sort, but the wet sponge has got this like greeniness to it, which makes it look a little bit moldy. And I can't help but feel that might actually be useful somehow. I don't know, there's something nice about that texture. Again, I haven't had the time to play around with it. But it does feel a little bit unfitting of being a wet sponge. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they're alright. I think a lot of these textures are cool. Now, this jack-o'-lantern texture is supposedly changed, and I love it. I think that's really, really nice, but I can't help but feel that it should be animated. Like, it just feels like the light is going to flicker at some point, because it's got that real kind of glowing intensity about it. So that's a really cool texture change right there. Then we have obsidian. I think this is going to be one of those love-hate textures right here. I actually really do like this, but I'm not sure how I'd use it just yet with other blocks. I think that will become more obvious as we get accustomed to these textures. So I'm going to say I actually really do like that one. Yeah, you can kind of resist change a little bit. Sometimes I think you should embrace what you like about something. And I just like the way bits of it pop. It feels like almost like it's glowing a little bit. Anyway, here in the Nether, things are moody and dark. Yeah, I think the Nether is looking really, really good now. This has got the right kind of feel about it. The blocks go together okay. The soul sand has improved. I'm much more of a fan of this one. I think the quartz looks really good, the way it mixes in with the netherrack. And the netherrack here, absolutely superb. I think this block is great. In fact, I'd almost, I might pick that as a floor in a room in my base. That's a really nice texture. There's a bit of a circle there, isn't there? That's something that I was going to comment on. Ironically, if we just focus on that right there, the textures line up really well with one another and they make a pattern. Be kind of cool if you could force that wherever you wanted it to be. But if you just look at the edges of the blocks, like if I press F1, the edges of the blocks pop out a little bit, and I feel like every now and then, like these raw lines appear. So I think it needs like a bit of a touch up on the edges. But otherwise, the Nether's looking great. It really is. I think these textures are working together. The portal looks like it belongs in this place. So let's hop through and go back out to the overworld. Oh, a little bit of that lag as you go through the portal. We have actually got consistent lag spikes, which means my memory has managed to fill up. That shouldn't have happened while recording. Okay, back in the world, it's reloaded. The melon. I remember being really fond of this last time. I think it'd be nicer if that texture was a little greener and you could stack it and perhaps use it where it might not be intended to be used, like a wallpaper. That's what I liked about the last texture, so I feel like that one's a step in the wrong direction personally. Let's go over and have a look at the metal blocks. We know that iron looks great. Nothing wrong with that texture at all. It's very similar to what we already know. And then these ones have all changed. They are looking better. I think diamond here is actually looking really, really cool. That border around the outside and then the light bit on the inside really makes it pop, which is cool. This one kind of looks good, going in the right direction. I think some of these coloured groups like this are a little bit too strong and maybe lacking a bit of a blend to them. Would be my sort of opinion on that. And the emerald one just looks a little too plasticky, but the diamond and the gold are good. The gold's on the right track. The diamond's kind of perfect, actually. I think these sort of streaks, diagonal streaks, look fantastic. I've read that quartz have changed, and it just looks as good as I remember it looking last time. Maybe the pillars are even a little bit nicer. So I'm really on board with that texture. I think it looks great. Slime blocks, can't really go wrong with that because they're so similar to how they looked before. I've read that the wither wasn't on the sandstone block last time, so that's come back, and how much this has changed from the last one I'm not sure, but it's a nice texture, got no complaints there. The beds look a little bit crinkly, maybe too much light to dark too quick, something just a little bit odd about those. They need to be a little bit smoother, I think, but otherwise, the whole thing's looking pretty good. That brings us on to prismarine blocks. These, last time, I loved them. How much has changed? I'm not sure because they look great, but I believe that this block has been updated a little bit. It's got a bit more of a cyan tint, which I think helps link it to the other prismarine blocks, as it is dark prismarine, and it looks really great. Like, those ones are just fantastic together. They're some of my favourite of all the texture changes, so they're still really great. Going over here, we've got armor, and you can see this has actually changed, like when you're wearing it, in the world. Leather looks okay. Iron, it's all good. The gold really got this sort of strong feel to it, which I think is trying to connect to this block over here. So some consistency like that is really good to see. Also, the chainmail has been made kind of ghostly looking, which I think is superb. That looks so much better than anything we've had before. However, the leggings look a little bit odd because you've got like a bit of a gap, then you've got some thickness, gaps where the knees are and at the bottom. That looks a little bit strange when it's on the player and moving around. Now, we've kind of looked at all the things in the physical world, the blocks, the armor. We should just have a flick through here and see if anything catches our attention. On this first page, not really. It's where we go into the items that I'm going to start probably commenting on a few things. There's definitely some that I want to talk about. The sign there looks a little bit too sort of pale and bright and faded, I think. That kind of leaps out of me, and that's that painting. I thought it was an item frame for a second. No, item frame looks pretty much like it did before. Saw some comments about the redstone and getting kind of used to this. It looks fine. Things look consistent. Speaking of blocks, I'm not keen on though. Oh, that was something I was going to do. I was going to place down the ones I'm still not keen on. I don't like the top of the sticky block there, and it's a bit of a shame they haven't put the sticky texture on the side of the piston because that would be very helpful. I also, for some reason, just don't really like the note block that much. Can't really tell you why, just Not so keen on it, not sold on it. But anyway, I forgot to do that. We'll continue going on through here. I feel like a lot of these minecart ones just don't quite look right yet. And there's some harsh underlines under the boats. Not terribly keen on that. Generally, everything has been tweaked, and I think a lot of the items have been given stronger underlines. And so everything there, I'm going to say looks pretty good. The snowball, I do not understand the cyan hint at all. I know that snow looks a little bit bluer when there's less light on it, but not like that. That just, I don't know, looks a bit odd. I think the diamond needs to, again, still look like the classic diamond that we know, because it's kind of iconic. And then just blitzing through here, don't see too much else that's changed drastically. I think it's just about getting the consistency on the outlining of items kind of consistent across all of them, which will be good. I noticed the poisonous potato. Has this changed? Because those look really kind of fun and cool. The beetroot, I remember, not looking so good. The carrot looks awesome. Again, not entirely sure how much of this stuff has changed, just telling you my thoughts off the top of the head. In here, you can see those textures have actually changed slightly, despite pretty much being the same model as they were before. So I've got a feeling all of these are subject to change, but gold has just been tweaked a little bit for that consistency. Not the same on the golden sword. The armor pieces right here, you can see that the chest plate looks a bit narrow, and I think that's to make it clearly different from the last set of textures, but it looks a little silly at the same time. So I kind of think just keeping the width for them makes sense, because they are kind of visibly different. And then I don't think there's anything else really that's changed, not that I've noticed. And so that's my, sort of first impressions, thoughts and opinions on these new texture changes. There are links in the description box down below for you to get involved in the discussion, and of course you can use the comments down below to let me know what you think of these new textures. Personally, I feel like it's all heading in the right direction, just got to iron out a few things here and there, and I think the future look of Minecraft is going to be an interesting one that could hopefully sort of reinvent building a little bit, give us all sort of like a fresh starting point to go from, right, I'm waffling. Okay, right, it's time to end the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.